This is our first Victory virtual sales meeting. By the way, try saying that 3 times fast. March 18th, 2020. I'm so excited. I had this idea the other day just to be able to give more value to everybody that's out there. And so many things have been kind of discombobulated, but I want to first start out. Let's all just take a breath. Just breathe in, take a breath, relax. Everything's going to be okay. We have to understand that panic begets more panic, right? Anxiety creates more anxiety. But if we work on being calm, we're going to be able to make it through this. And as a favor to the rest of the group, just in case, please mute your phone or please mute yourself on Zoom. If you want to unmute yourself to ask a question, more than welcome to do that as well. But at least this will, again, prevent the dogs barking, the F-bombs, and so on, people yelling at their kids. So thank you for that in advance. So a couple things we'll talk about on today's call. Of course, we're going to address the elephant in the room. We're going to give you guys some tips on how to reset your mind and to be able to be more productive working from home. And your opportunity is huge. This is an advantage. And the way that you look at this is going to determine how you come out of it. And we're living in very, very unique times. Nothing like this in my 42 years has ever happened. And many of you guys have never faced anything like this level of uncertainty. So we're all in this together. We all have to navigate these waters and figure out how we can come out better on the other side. It is what it is. We can't change it. We have to deal with it. You got to play the hand that you're dealt. And so how you deal with that is the most important thing. Some of you, believe me, I know are worried. I've heard from so many clients and friends and colleagues. I just got another text that my buddy's lost most of his hours. He's got 4 kids. You know, what is he going to do? I have people that just literally emailed me a minute ago, hey, I got laid off literally 10 minutes ago. I'm really looking forward to this to help me get my mind right. So I understand that many, many of you are worried. We've, of course, had some changes at Victory Selling that we have to adapt to, and it's really all about how you look at things. On the other side, some of you are really excited. We had our national call last night, as I mentioned, with our AFLAC Agent Mastery folks, and we had so many great things that came up, and you really have to look at this from the glass half full. But we've heard the glass half full, glass half empty. We know that kind of thing, but I want you to look at it a little bit differently and just be glad that you have a glass. See, most people, guys, they don't have a glass. They don't have plates to eat off of. They are homeless, right? We've got all these struggles, people with mental disabilities and our veterans that are struggling. Listen, this is not as big of a deal as it seems. We tend to turn little molehills into mountains, and we need to do the other thing, right? We've got to turn this mountain into a little molehill and get by it, because when you look at what you have, it's still better than what most people have. I want to cover scarcity versus abundance mindset for a second. And we've been taught this, again, you are what you think, and you are the company you keep in so many different areas where we can help people. And I want you guys to understand this. If we have a scarcity mindset in this situation, it's going to kill you and it's going to kill your business on the other side. We have got to look at this from an abundance mindset. What do I have, right? Not what do I not have? Because if you're living and thinking with stress, everything else in your life is going to bring more stress. If you're thinking about how much business I'm not going to get, well, then it's important to understand that you don't have the ability to get business now. That's what matters. So understand that if you're thinking of this from a stress level, it's going to kill you. And I understand we're all losing business. We're all losing clients. We just have to manage to think of all the positives that can happen. Shared this story with some of you guys on the way up to Vegas the other day. I had to go up and do some recording for our online lessons and things. And I had planned the whole day out. We're doing content, we're doing video, we're doing shooting. And then I get a text from Southwest at 8 o'clock at night, the night before, hey, by the way, your flight's canceled. And I had to be in Vegas the next day at 8 a.m. So what do? You can't just bitch and moan about it. You just get in the car and drive. So got in the car, headed to Vegas. About an hour on the way up, there was major traffic jam, and it just wasn't moving. And this was where the cars were parked. And we were literally sitting on the highway for an hour and a half, not moving. Unfortunately, a gentleman on a motorcycle lost his life. And we think about, again, so many people bitch and moan because they're in traffic, or bitch and moan because they're late. And, somebody's son, somebody's daughter, somebody's husband, somebody's wife just lost their life that day. And you're complaining because somebody canceled an appointment. So we got to keep things in perspective. And if we do, we're going to get through this thing a lot more effectively. It's funny that Murphy's Law, and we had St. Paddy's Day yesterday, which was probably the driest St. Paddy's Day in the history of St. Paddy's Days. But Murphy's Law tells us that if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. And this, again, is living from a scarcity mindset. Mr. Murphy was not really a positive thinker, or it could be Mrs. Murphy, I guess, or Ms. Murphy. But regardless of that, if we're thinking, oh no, bad stuff's going to happen, well, guess what? Bad stuff happens. How we think makes us good, bad, indifferent. If we think good things are going to happen. If we think about bad things are going to happen. If you're worried about losing your job right now, if you're worried about losing your position, losing business, losing clients, losing money, guess what's going to happen? All of those things. We've got to think positively. One of my business partners was talking about this yesterday. I'll share with you a story in a second. I want to quote one of the great philosophizers, to quote Mr. White Goodman from Dodgeball, Mr. George McFly. If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. And that's so true. If you believe you can come out of this thing better on the other side, if you believe that you're going to improve your sales skills and you're going to get to the top of your company or your business, or even for yourself, you can do it. But you have to believe that you can do it. Don't let this outside environment affect you. Really important that we keep the blinders on and we keep believing in ourselves and supporting one another. You see what's happening now with the media. It's just jumping on this thing. And you see a headline, first death in Texas. Oh my God. And it's big. And unfortunately, again, this disease does have a mortality rate. But the gentleman that passed away was, I think it was 91, 92 years old, already had health problems, and probably a common cold might have had the same effect. We still don't know yet. But the reality is they want the headlines. They're putting people into fear and panic. You've got to block it out. This is precisely why I don't watch the news. So another great thing, I stole this. I didn't find this or make it up. I saw this. I think it was on LinkedIn. But in 1665, the bubonic plague was killing millions of people, and the University of Cambridge closed. And so Isaac Newton had to stay at home. And so what did he do? Well, he developed calculus, and he figured out the theory of gravity. So what can you do at home? If Isaac Newton can do it, you can do it too. Because when you think about positive things happen. When you think about negative things happen. And this, again, to go back to why I don't watch the news and why I try to keep that noise all out of my head, is because when you see the news, even before this pandemic, you see car crashes and murders and criminals and rapes and drugs and accidents and all this stuff. It's not positive. It's just sensationalism. So please take that into consideration, because the more you're watching the news and the more you're online and reading the articles and everyone's getting sick and everyone's dying and all this stuff, it's going to happen. So you got to keep that stuff out of your mind. A great thing about this too, the positive, negative things, I'll tell you guys a story about my parents. If you don't know, by the way, if you've ever seen Seinfeld, George's parents, the Costanzas, those are my parents. I mean, to a T. But it's funny, my mom is super positive. So when she goes to the casino or buys scratch tickets or whatever she does, she always wins. Every time she'll be at a casino, she'll put $5 into a penny slot and hit for $1,200. I get a text, Stevie, another $1,200. And then my dad has never won anything ever. Not once, not ever, not $1 on a scratch ticket, not a single cherry on a slot machine, 0.0 wins, because he knows he's going to lose. And so when I was growing up, I started giving them scratch tickets, lottery, little scratch offs. And I would give my mom some tickets. She'd always win. And I'd give my dad some tickets. He would never win. So I started just giving him lottery tickets already ripped up. So I'd buy them from the gas station, rip them in half, put them in his stocking, and just save him the time. So you have to understand, you got to think positively. And we're in a very difficult situation now where we've got so much outside influence, so many distractions, so many things happening at home. How do we stay focused? And that's what we're going to talk about. Some of you guys were sharing this with me offline about how happy you are that you don't have to drive as much anymore. And I want to share this story about a young man I met, JD, really recently. And he told me this. And David, since you're up in Washington, you'll appreciate this. This kid was driving to his job, from Olympia, Washington, past Seattle, 2.5 hours per way. He was in the car for 5 hours a day. You know why? Because he had to do it. He had to work to provide for his family and his daughters. So understand that if your commute's an hour each way, you got nothing on this kid. And he did that for over a year. But if you do commute, or used to, but now you're working from home, understand this. The average time somebody spends commuting is 58 minutes a day. So 29 minutes each way. That's about 5 hours a week. That's about 19 hours a month, not including weekends. So that's 232 hours in a year that you are in your car, on a train. Some of my buddies from New York City are on this call, and they have a commute that's almost 2 hours each way because they live in Long Island, work in the city. So what now do we get to do? Because guess what? If you're at home working, remotely, whatever it is, for the next 3 months, what will you do with 60 extra hours? Think about that, guys. 60 extra hours that you now have to work on you. It's a blessing in disguise, but we just don't necessarily recognize it because we're looking at all the bad stuff and we're not seeing the good stuff that's in front of us. And many of you know I'm such a huge fan of Jim Rohn. If anybody ever asks, that question, who would you like to have lunch with? If you could pick lunch with anybody, it would be Jim Rohn. Well, Jim Rohn first, Larry David second. But Jim Rohn says, it's not what happens that determines the major part of your future. What happens to us all. It's what you do about what happens that counts. And it's never been more true than it is today. And so think about that. Share a couple wins with you guys. Some of the folks, our clients, are doing great. We had somebody yesterday that landed their biggest client ever. I have a realtor friend of mine who got 2 listings yesterday. We have Aflac agents that are landing big accounts. But it's important to understand, guys, there are wins still happening. Even in an economic downturn, whatever you want to call it, there's always going to be opportunity for growth. And the reason is most of your competition is waning. They're either giving up, they're quitting, they're not being as productive, or they're making excuses. And if all you do is maintain the status quo, if all you do is continue your work ethic, and that's all you did, it would be so critical for you to do that because you're already going to ascend past them if you do the status quo. But if you double down and you invest in yourself and your skills, man, you are going to come out on the other side 10 times better. Let's talk about what it's like from a company perspective. Many of you guys on the call are running companies, CEOs, VPs of sales, or leading sales teams. And just want to share with you guys what they're dealing with, because this is both sides, right? It's the company or your employer or who you work for or with, and then it's the salespeople themselves who have to earn their livelihoods. So we know salespeople are now at home. Employees are now at home, at least the ones that companies can still afford to keep. And so what are the factors when it comes to that? Well, the first one is the lack of a sales process is now going to cause major damage to the bottom line. Only about 40% of companies have a well-written, thought-out, duplicatable sales process. And the other 60% are lying. Okay, they just think they do. And so what happens now is because there's no structure, because there's no dedicated sales process, and people really aren't sure what to do, now results are really going downhill. So we've got to make sure that if that lack of a sales process was hurting them before and what it's going to do to them now, we got to get that fixed. Number two, a lot of the C-level is now focusing like a hawk on numbers. They're looking at production. They're looking at sales numbers. They're looking at quota. They're looking at activity. If they weren't living in their CRMs before and they weren't really scouring their P&Ls before, guess what they're doing right now? Because now they're trying to trim the fat. They're trying to cut costs. And what they're looking for is inefficiencies in the workforce. So we got to understand that. Number three thing is that minimal coaching and training is going to be super evident now, and it's going to, again, lead to lower productivity in their sales teams. Because again, if there was no accountability before, if they weren't doing weekly one-on-ones, if they weren't doing normal accountability and coaching like they should have been doing before, now that's going to rear its ugly head. Productivity is going to go down. So that's why we're doing stuff like this, right? To help companies regather the troops, create an environment of support, learning, and growth so we can mitigate the results of the situation that we're in. Now let's talk about the salesperson's perspective. So many of you independent salespeople, or you work for a company and your livelihood is at stake. So working from home, guys, it's different. Most people don't work effectively from home because why? Because there's so many distractions. And that's why we want to make sure we give you some tips to be more productive and more efficient and to focus better working from home. Because you got, again, family's a cute little boy here. I mean, who would want to work when you got him on your lap? So understand that it is difficult. It's not easy, but we have to change. If all of a sudden you couldn't work in an office anymore, and they said, hey guys, we're going to go to beach work. Oh, what do you mean, man? Yeah, you're just going to work from the beach. You know, just get a beach chair and a margarita and your laptop. How productive do you think that would be? So that's what's happening now. People are in a completely different environment than they're used to. They're out of their routine, muscle memory, whatever you want to call it. So we have to learn new skills and new habits to be able to be as effective as we were in an office. And in most cases, we can be more effective than when we were in an office. And that is where this economy is going. Guys, this is just the start to going virtual because we have so many companies now that are going to see they could be as productive as with people working in brick and mortar, but we have to show them that we can. So here's some important factors for people that have to work from home. Many salespeople have never done it. So how do we expect them to do it? It's almost like when we teach in sales training or we do these sales DNA tests, right? To help people figure out why they're not as successful as they could be because they've never been trained. When you have salespeople that have never been trained and then you as the leader are wondering why they're not successful, like, what are you thinking? Of course they're not successful. They don't know how to sell because the training they got was, make some calls, but it's a numbers game. No, it's not. It's a skills game. So it's time to get better. Number two, if you're not disciplined and more focused now, you better learn how to be. Right? We've all been saying, I'm not great at time management or I procrastinate or whatever it is. You got to fix this and you got to fix it quickly because every day that goes by that you're wasting your time and you're screwing around on Netflix instead of learning how to be better at what you do, the compound effect of that in 3 months is going to be astronomical. And number three, your performance is going to be looked at. If you are a salesperson that's now remote or now working from home, guess what leadership's looking at? Your production. And if your production can stay consistent without you being in the office, man, they are going to be loving you. If your production increases without you being in the office, they're never going to get rid of you. And you have to think about this one thing. Do companies fire their top salespeople? Just think about that question. And the answer is no. Why don't they? Because they're valuable assets to the company. And I'm not saying every single one of them doesn't, and some people have had to. But for the most part, if you're at the top of the company in terms of production, revenue generation, customers, all that kind of stuff, they're keeping you. So that is your job security, guys. And again, I've heard so many things from people. Oh, what am I going to do? What if I lose my job? What if I can't go back to work? Guess what? Get better. Because if you get better and you provide real value to people, not only will they not want to let you go, but you're going to get calls from other people just in case they do, because you're a superstar. But you have to develop the mindset, the skill set to become a superstar in these next couple of months. Now's your time. And I ask you, is this your plan? I mean, is it just, oh, well, I mean, I guess we'll see what happens. At least I could watch more Netflix. I mean, no, we can't just do this walking around blind and hoping it all works out for us in the end. We have to take initiative. It is critical that we do that. And I want to give you all 3 keys to staying focused. And if you have a pen or a pencil or whatever, you write this down, please write these down. Number 1 is you got to remain calm. In the face of adversity, can you remain calm? And this is what a lot of athletes have, what a lot of singers, performers have. You're performing in front of 100,000 people. Oh my God, I'm going to freak out. No, it's calm. It's just like they're at the coffee shop, right? If you're a quarterback that's down 20 points in the 4th quarter and you just throw a pick 6, you can't get all discombobulated because you're going to throw another one. You have to remain calm. If you lose a client and it's your biggest client, well, that's okay. You couldn't control that anyway. So remain calm, refocus, think about how I'm going to get another big client and go from there. We just have to take breaths. And so my advice to you, if you don't meditate, if you don't journal, if you don't take quiet time in the morning, and I don't care which one you do, but just do something. So every morning and every night, just take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, be alone with your thoughts. You can go for a walk. You can sit on your couch by yourself. You can meditate in your room. Whatever it is, just take 5 or 10 minutes every day. Maybe you do it in the middle of the day to kind of upset all the bad stuff that's going on, right? It's not really bad. We're just being told it's bad. And just take a breath. It's a speed bump, y'all. I mean, who knows what it's going to be, right? Will it be 2 weeks? Will it be 6 weeks? Will it be 12 weeks? Will it be 6 months? We don't really know. But in the grand scheme of things, everything's going to come back to normal. Everything's going to be okay. And we're going to come out on the other end better than when we came in. Unfortunately, some people are going to come out worse than when they came in. So understand it's temporary. This is not lifetime. This is not a death sentence. It's just a little speed bump. And if we treat it like a little speed bump, it's going to be okay. If you treat it like it's a Spartan race, a mud run, SEAL team training, right? And you think of, oh my God, this is going to be so hard. Guess what? It's going to be hard. Be thankful for what you have. So many of us have loved ones and families and little fur babies and amazing relationships and all those kind of things that a lot of people wish they had. And now it's time to continue to build that community. It's been so great to see people looking on Facebook, right? Outreach. Hey, if anybody needs this, if anybody needs that, if anybody needs extra toilet paper, if anybody needs this, right? By the way, there's a lot of olives, okay, sitting in Walmart. You know why? Because nobody likes olives, okay? I'm just kidding. You guys know I hate olives, so don't send me those. I might die. Like if there's no food left and all that's left on the planet are olives, I don't know what I would do. But be thankful for what you do have, okay? Because we tend to take for granted the things in our life that are good because we're letting the things that are not so good override that. So just be thankful for what you have. Focus on what you can do. Okay? Focus on what you can do. Don't focus on what you can't do. We know there's going to be less in-person interaction. We know this. It's just the way it is. So how do we pivot? Because a lot of us that are either door-to-door, that are in-person, that are belly-to-belly, that are face-to-face, we're kind of losing our identity. So what do we have to do? We have to adapt. And many of you know Charles Darwin, and many of you know what he said, and it's either adapt or die. That's it. There's no other way. If you don't adapt to the virtual world we're in, at least for the next couple of months, you're going to get left behind and you're going to go extinct. So you need to understand less in person. Okay, well, now we got to do more Zoom. Now we got to do more virtual. Now we got to do more phone calls. Use this. I know many people don't know how to use the phone, right? You know, you can call people on this thing, like, and actually talk to humans. It's not just a texting machine or DMs on Instagram. You can physically talk to people. So use it. It's a tool. It's a weapon. It's a cash register. However you want to look at it, it's there for you to expand your business, your connections, your clients, your outreach, all those things. But guess what? You have the time now. You can now call your clients. You can call them all. I talked to another client of ours yesterday who spent all day long talking to his clients, all day. And not to try to sell something. Hey, everything's going to be okay. I'm here for you if you need me. Now's the time to do that because guess what? You have the time. Second one, update your CRM. I can already feel the tension and people's stomach drops on the other end of the call. Yes, you need to update your CRM, me included. It's important. It's not our strength, a lot of us, but we have to utilize this time to get it right. Because when we don't get it right, we're missing opportunities. We're missing advantages we could have gotten by talking to that person. We're missing out on potential clients or future speaking gigs or whatever it is you do. You got to make sure you're inside that CRM. And lastly, another great one is write thank you notes. This is one of the things that I learned a long time ago that has helped me so much. And when I first started with Cutco, there was an event with Tom Hopkins. You guys might remember Tom Hopkins, and it was like a 2-day event, and it was $1,200, and I was 20 years old. I didn't have $1,200, so I borrowed it from a friend of mine. Her name was Visa, and she loaned me the money, got the $1,200, and I ended up making the $1,200 back in like 3 weeks. But one of the things that I learned, this is back in the late 90s, I think, was the value of thank you notes. So if you haven't done it, get some. You've got to make sure you're letting people know that they mean something to you. Last thing, become world class at service. Most people just in sales, right? We just want to make the sale, just make the sale. But it'll cost you between 3 and 20 times more to get a new client than it will to maintain a client. And many of you are in a business where you have recurring revenue, or you have renewal income, or whatever it might be. Well, guess what stops if you don't service your clients? That. So take the time now to build out a system, build out a process where you can be world class. It's important, guys, really important. And number 3 is significantly improve your skill set. This is a huge opportunity we've just been given, and most people won't recognize it or take advantage of it. Whatever you do, don't do this. We already, as a country, the average person, I don't know if y'all know this, spends 34 hours a week watching TV. Yeah, 34 hours. That includes Netflix and Hulu and all that other stuff, okay? 34 hours. The average person has another full-time job watching TV. It's insane. And people wonder why they're not as successful as they could be, because they're wasting their time. Okay, it's important to not do this. Who's worth more, Netflix or Disney? Take a guess. So it's not Disney. Why? Because people sit at home, it's easy, they turn the TV on, they turn the idiot box on, and boom. And then they wonder why They don't have what their friends have. They wonder why they're not making the sales they wish they could. They wonder why their bank account's not as big as it could be. They wonder why they're not in the house they want to live in for their dream house. It's because they're wasting time. And so now this problem is going to be exacerbated. If it was 34 hours a week when people had to go to work, what do you think it's going to be now? So we got to be careful of this. And so many people like to do the binge stuff. And you've all heard of binge watching. You've all heard of binge drinking, but nobody's ever heard of binge personal growthing. And guess what? The people that binge personal growth over the next 3 months are going to kick your butts. So this is what you should be doing. Listening to more podcasts, listening to other mentors that can fill your mind with good things. And do this. We can read. The most successful people in the world read 30 minutes a day. There's a great study by Tom Corley, if you ever look it up, and he did almost like a modern day Napoleon Hill thing, kind of like what I recently did, but he wanted to find out what were the habits of the rich, okay? And I don't even care about the money. It's really, what are the habits of the successful? And he found out, guess what? A majority of them read. Bill Gates reads 50 books a year. Warren Buffett reads for between 4 and 5 hours a day. You got to read, guys. And this, do more online learning. And I don't care what it is. Learn a language, take an online guitar lesson, learn how to cook, take an online course. I don't even care what it is. Use your time effectively because it's there for you, right? What are you going to do for it? Watching Netflix is not going to improve your financial situation, especially now. It's only going to improve Netflix financial situation. Become a master. Take the time. What is that one thing? What is that thing you've always said, you know what? I'm going to do that. I met another friend that said, you know what? I'm going to learn how to play the piano. And he's always wanted to do it. He's never had the time, even though we have, but now we really have the time. So what is it for you? Take a second to think about that. What do you want to master? And if it's in sales, since we're talking about sales or business, could it be mastering the art of getting referrals? Could it be mastering your sales presentation? Could it be mastering the way that you ask people for a referral, a testimonial, business? Could it be your elevator pitch? Who knows what it is? But could it be LinkedIn, right? You guys got to be on there. Talk about being somewhere you need to be. That is what you need to master, because not only is LinkedIn a tool that is the most underutilized gold mine in the history of business and social media, but if your LinkedIn is not up to date, you better fix that. So think about what you can become a master in. And we all know this gentleman, and he's had, a couple decent quotes. Let me go back to Mr. Einstein there. So when we look at Mr. Einstein, he's probably done a couple of great things in his life. And one of my favorite quotes by him is, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity, right? It's so true. When one door closes, another door opens. And, we all know these quotes. We all know these mindset tools. We all know these things, but now is the time to do it. So I want to leave you guys with a couple of action items. And this is something, if you guys implement these things over the next week, over the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, you're going to see your businesses change. So the first one, and I just mentioned this by accident, is update your social media profiles. Now, if you use Instagram, if you use Facebook, I don't care what it is, go on there and update it. And if you want to be more productive and have people take you more seriously, maybe you want to think about some of the pictures that are on there. You laying on top of a bar doing shots may not be the image that you want to portray for your client. So make sure you go in there and update it. We just talked about LinkedIn, and I get a lot of connections. And by the way, guys, please, everyone, connect with me on LinkedIn if we're not connected. But inside of LinkedIn profiles, I see so many things. I've seen people's pictures upside down. I've seen people's names misspelled. I mean, their own name. I've seen them not have the current place of employment or business they're in. You got to understand that LinkedIn profile, that's your resume for today. That's what people see. That's their first impression. So make sure you go in and update your social media profiles and get them up to snuff. Number 2, review all appointments that you set and ran from 2019. This is such a great exercise. And my buddy, actually my LinkedIn guru, Brian's the one that told me this. Make sure you're going back in and looking at every single meeting or phone call you ran, because you are going to find out that you missed things. Because we're not all great at CRM. We don't all enter in every day like we should. But if you go back in, I promise you, you're going to find opportunities for business. You're going to find opportunities for relationships. You're going to find opportunities to build referral partners. You're going to find opportunities to get a second date that you blew because you forgot about him or her. So all those kind of things you're going to find if you go back and review your appointments from 2019. Number 3, pivot if necessary. Listen, we have to pivot as a company. I do a lot of speaking, keynotes, training for companies, all that kind of stuff, and they're pretty much all canceled. So what do? You just pivot. You come up with something different. I figured this would be a good method to get the word out, to help people grow and learn and stay supported and have a community that they can be a part of. And it's virtual. There's people on this call from almost every state probably, and probably even different countries. I know we have some Canadians on here and some UK folks. So understand that you just have to pivot. Listen, it's not the end of the world. If we have to do something a little bit differently, oh well, we have to do it differently. Number 4 is know your burn rate. And a lot of people on the call, if you're a salesperson, you may not have looked at your business like a business, and you may be still looking at it like a solopreneur. But now is the time you have to look at it like a business. You have to know your P&L. You got to know all these things, because if you don't know your burn rate, by the way, which is how much cash do I have until I run out? Okay, if all things were status quo and all things were equal, if I have 6 months worth of cash before I run out, I better get on the horn, right? Or if I have 2 months before I run out, I better really be productive. I'm not even turning on the damn TV. So know your burn rate. And number 5 is improve your skills. It's really, really important that you improve your skill set, because you now have an extra, at least if you're commuting, 60 hours, okay? 60 in the next 3 months alone. So what do you think you could do with that time? What could we do? We could learn, we could take an online course, we could study, we could call our friends, we could create our own little accountability group. We can record ourselves, right? We can practice. That's one of the things we teach all our students is, when's the last time you recorded yourself, honestly? And you think about athletes, right, that watch game film, and they watch hours and hours of game film every week, hours and hours to find out what they're doing that they can improve upon. And guess what? They get paid millions of dollars. And many salespeople have never even recorded themselves one time, not once. Now, they know how to use this to, be in the airport. Oh, going to Cabo. Woo, yeah, see you in Cabo. Okay, what is that going to do for you? Record yourself, record your phone call, record your elevator pitch, record your sales presentation, record how you ask for the sale, record how you ask for referrals, and share it with people. Have them watch it for you. Take constructive criticism. That's what it's about. If you're not great at public speaking, learn how to do that better. Guess what? You have a built-in audience because your family's there, or your dogs, or your fish. Who cares? Practice. If you're not good at selling, well, guess what? Learn the skills it takes to be better at sales. If you're not good at cooking, guess what you could do? Learn how to cook. There's YouTube. There's so many cool things you can do using the internet that we don't even realize. So improve your skills. Now is the time to do it. And I'll leave you with this. Are you prepared? And are you prepared to go back out into the ring, right? Into, right, your markets. When this thing is all over, are you prepared? many of you saw that LinkedIn post I put up of the Essential Water keynote I did with Mike Tyson. When people would go into the ring with Tyson back in the day, they already lost. They were not prepared. They were fearful. They knew they were going to lose. But one dude was prepared, Buster Douglas. One guy was more prepared than Tyson. Wasn't more skilled, wasn't more chiseled, wasn't faster, wasn't stronger, but he was prepared and he won. So are you prepared? Are you going to be prepared? Come out better on the other side. Be updated. Have better quality language. Have a better sales process. Concern for people should improve. Communication should be better. Customer service should be better. Your phone calls should be better. Your speaking could be better. All those things you do. Your language could be better. Maybe you learn 2 languages. You'd be better at piano, guitar, who knows what it is. But take this time to come out new and improved. Just think that. Am I going to be new and improved, or am I going to be just the way I was when I went in? Favor, please. And it's very important. And we were going to kind of do a Q&A, but if we open it up, there's so many people on the call, it'll all get completely discombobulated. So if you guys can do me a huge favor. Number 1, please email me. That's my email right there. What resonated with you most from our call today? Okay, just, hey, a quick email. Hey, Steve, I really learned this today. I'm going to implement this in my business right away. And number 2, what topics would you like to see covered next week? So we're going to do another one of these next week. I'm not sure what we're doing after that because we just had this idea. But next week, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to talk about some of these things that are going to help you guys become more productive, more focused. And again, please let me know what topics you'd like to see covered next week. We can't really get into too much on the sales skills right now because we got to get our minds right first. And that's something a lot of trainers don't understand. You can't teach people how to close when they have a need to be liked. You can't teach people how to close when they're uncomfortable discussing money. You got to work on what's upstairs first. So we got to work on habits, attitudes, beliefs, thought processes, structures. Those types of things have to be fixed first. That's why this call is so important, to get you guys in the right mind frame to be able to fix the things we know we can fix. Then we can bring in the sales stuff too. So as a favor, again, please email me after the call. We're almost done. What resonated with you most today, and what topics would you like to see us cover next week? That would be super helpful. So here's the next call, Wednesday, March 25th. Oh, by the way, take a guess what happens that day. So not only is my birthday, but my book is coming out, which is crazy. So thank you all so much again for those of you guys that are helping with that. I really appreciate you doing that. But here's the Zoom link for next week. So again, Wednesday, March 25th, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Would love to see you all there. If you want to connect with me again afterwards on social media, that's my Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn, Steve Heroux. And one more time, please, I would really appreciate the feedback by email, and let me know what resonated with you. What would you like to see on next week's call? And once again, guys, I really appreciate you guys being on the call. Thank you so much. Again, it's going to pass. We just got to keep our minds right, keep focused, keep the blinders on, and all is going to be okay. So thanks again, everybody, for your time. Look forward to seeing you next week, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.